What's up guys, T-Mart here, and today we've got a ton of new Call of Duty World War II information to talk about. Yesterday, a Game Informer totally spilled the beans. We have all sorts of new intel on multiplayer and on zombies that we had never heard of before. I want to go through, let you guys know what's going on, and kind of get some of your guys' opinions, because there's some interesting stuff going on here. So we're going to be starting off with the multiplayer side of things, and we're going to be starting with headquarters. So obviously, we know headquarters. It's this big new mode that Sledgehammer is really excited about. It's not really a mode per se, but it's like this social space in multiplayer for when you're outside of actual multiplayer matches. It's similar to the tower from Destiny, so it's like where all these players can come together, they can interact with each other, they can show off their achievements, you can go to the firing range, you can go to the 1v1 pit area, do all kinds of stuff like that. Well, it turns out they're also going to have dynamic events in the headquarters. So imagine this. Everybody's doing their thing. You're like chilling on the firing range, whatever else. Then all of a sudden, the like enemy air horn sirens come on, like letting you know that enemy planes are incoming. And then these computer-controlled planes come in and they start bombing you guys and kamikazing you guys and stuff like that. And everybody in that headquarters area has to scramble to the AA guns and start shooting these enemy airplanes. That's the kind of thing they're gonna have going on. So it's kind of like this cool little community event. And I'm sure if you're successful, you're all gonna be rewarded. So yeah, there are going to be little dynamic events like that, which I think is kind of cool. They also said there are going to be seasonal events. So think about all the stuff that Modern Warfare Remastered has done with all the different holidays and the special camos and playlists and stuff like that. That's going to be pretty cool. So they're going to kind of try to constantly keep the headquarters changing and updated and fresh, which I think is a good thing. Now, they've also said they're going to have daily and weekly quests you can, you know, kind of look at and accept and stuff like that from the headquarters. So that's going to be cool. Another way to earn XP, and I'm sure earn like, you know, crypto keys or whatever else is actually in the game. So that'll be pretty cool. You can watch streams and tournaments from the headquarters. So like when MLG tournaments and stuff are going on, everybody can go like to the theater room and go watch it, which I think is pretty interesting. And then also the final feature they announced about headquarters is that you can open up your supply drops in the HQ with everybody watching. What? That's kind of weird, right? So we don't have any gameplay of this. We don't exactly know how it's gonna work, but my thought goes to like a fight in a school hallway. You know how everybody kind of circles up around those two people? That's what it's gonna be like. Like you're gonna be the center of attention. You're gonna be like opening up your box. Everybody else is gonna be like trying to figure out what you got, which is kind of interesting. It's a cool idea. At first thought I was like, you know, that's not bad, but I feel like it's gonna get boring, right? Like how many times are you just gonna sit there and watch somebody else open supply drops? Well, it turns out that if you're watching and the person that opens it gets something really good, like a legendary or an epic or something like that, everybody that's watching that is gonna get rewarded as well, which is it's kind of interesting. I like that idea. Now, I doubt they're gonna get that actual item. Like, you're not gonna get that weapon skin or whatever else, but you might get a little XP bonus. You could get a couple of crypto keys. You could get some sort of little bonus for being a part of that event, which I think is kind of cool. I like creating that sense of community. I feel like sometimes the COD community can be very selfish and very, you know, kind of toxic. So if we're all on the same team rooting for each other, that's kind of a cool thing to be a part of. Now, they did elaborate on this a little bit. They said that the more you're participating in these social features, so like the more dynamic action events you're going to be a part of, and the more, you know, 1v1s you do in the pit and the firing range you do with other people and stuff like that, the more you're involved, the more you stand to gain from supply drops that contain cosmetic loot. So it sounds like you're going to have some sort of like social score. So if you have a high social score, you're going to have a better chance of getting good stuff from supply drops, which, again, I like that idea of creating this sense of community. Now, they did talk about supply drops a little bit. Of course, these are going to be in the game. They did say that at launch, it's going to be cosmetic only. So that's a good sign. Will they keep it that way throughout the entire year? Most likely not. I feel like we definitely have heard this before. We've been around this bush a couple of times, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens. They did talk a little bit about the different rarities. So legendaries and epics are back. Epic is the most rare. And they're talking about those in terms of the cosmetic differences. So they said that they want to keep everything rooted in believability. So there's not going to be anything totally outlandish that just doesn't belong in World War II. So no weed smoking 420 camos and Spectrum camos and stuff like that. Everything is going to be true to that era, to that time period. So we're talking about very basic paint jobs and different types of stained wood and stuff like that. They said they have a new customization option called Sweetheart Grips. So this is where soldiers would actually replace their pistol grips with plexiglass and be able to put like pictures of their wives and families and stuff, which I didn't know they did this. I think that's kind of cool. So obviously there's going to be some cool customization there. But yeah, they're going to keep everything thematically appropriate, which is very, very good. And I know a lot of people were worried about that, but it sounds like they want to keep it on the up and up. Now, next up, we learned a little bit more about divisions. So this whole part of the game is kind of complicated to explain because I feel like you just kind of have to see it in the menus yourself. But divisions are basically different types of soldiers that use certain types of weapons. So you have the 5 different divisions for the 5 weapon classes, and you have to use that division to be able to use that weapon class. So there's one for assault rifles, one for SMGs, one for LMGs, one for shotguns, and one for snipers. Well, it turns out that each one of these divisions is going to have its own unique leveling system. So you have your base, like, main level as your player, as your, like, in total online experience, and then you're also going to have these separate leveling systems for each of the 5 divisions. And when you max out a division, you get a special weapon you wouldn't have had access to otherwise. Like, that's the only way to be able to unlock that weapon. So that's kind of interesting. There are basically to be these, like, 5 special weapons you can only get from maxing out these division levels, which is crazy, man. Like, I feel like this is going to be a very, very deep multiplayer because, again, we have that, like, base level that's just your character in general. That's your level. And then you have these division levels within your 5 divisions. And then also on top of that, every single weapon in the game has its own weapon level that you have to rank up. So there are just multiple different ways to rank up, multiple things to focus on, and multiple different ways to get rewards, which I think is kind of cool. So it sounds like it's going to be pretty deep, and we're never really going to run out of things to do, especially when on top of that you add in prestiging and all the different rewards you get in the HQ from prestiging and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot to the leveling system this year, which is kind of exciting. Now, finally, last but not least, I do want to talk about the new zombies intel that we got. So the actual setting of the zombies mode is going to take place at the end of the war, and it's at a point where Germany is desperate. They know the Allies are closing in. They're going to have to do something crazy to be able to, you know, win this war back. I've got a great idea. Let's create an undead army. So these zombies are made by Dr. Straub, and they're controlled via the nervous system. So I don't know how he's doing it. I'm sure we'll find out more later. But basically, he's, you know, putting all these like bolts and mechanical parts in them that we've seen in lots of the teaser images. And then he uses their backbone as a source of energy that controls their nervous system and forces them to do whatever he wants. So these are not zombies that are like crazy, bloodthirsty, searching for human flesh. These are zombies who are being controlled by their nervous system, and they're actually being tortured. So they're not intentionally doing this. They're being forced to do this. So it's kind of an interesting take. I don't think we've seen that in many zombies video games or movies even. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Like, since they're being controlled, is there a way for us to take power of that control and turn their control onto the Germans and use their own weapon against them? I don't know. Could be kind of interesting. Sounds like an interesting plot. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So that's kind of how the zombies work. Now, in terms of the actual storyline, it's based off of real events that took place during the war, which is kind of cool. So, I mean, obviously, it's a story. It's made up. All the characters, all the happenings never actually happened. The Germans never actually got a zombie army, but Sledgehammer has written this zombie storyline around actual occurrences in real life, so although it's fake, although it's made up, it also has a little twist of historical accuracy in there, which I think is kind of cool. To be interesting to see how everything links up. Now, they did say that boarding up windows is back, of course, collecting currency is back, and super bosses are back. Easter eggs are back, but they will be very, very difficult. And this is probably like the 3rd or 4th time I've seen them talk about how difficult these Easter eggs are going to be, so this is going to be pretty crazy. I mean, I already think the Easter eggs are ridiculously challenging as they are right now and very, very complicated. I can't imagine them being even more complicated. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but that could be kind of interesting. They said that there are going to be numerous types of zombies and numerous classes of zombies with different, you know, abilities and ways to attack you, and they take different ways to be able to take them down. Of course, we've seen that before. They said there are going to be 4 human classes, and obviously it's a 4-player co-op survival game, so each person is going to take one role. You've got your offense, your control, your support, and then your medic. So offense, of course, is going to be all about firepower. Control sounds like it could be some sort of like a mechanic or something like that. Maybe he's good with parts. I'm not sure. Support is going to be somebody that, you know, maybe is able to give out ammo or has shields and ways to slow down the zombies. And then finally, medic obviously is going to have healing properties. So it's going to be interesting to see how all these work out and what their abilities are and what they can actually do, how it makes a difference. But that's something we haven't really seen before. They did say you're going to have completely customizable loadouts, but you also have permanent unlocks. They act kind of like gobblegums, but they're not temporary. So as you play, you're going to get these permanent unlocks and these permanent abilities that stay with you forever, which I think is kind of cool. So longtime Zombies players who play a lot are going to be rewarded for it, which I like. And then finally, last but not least, they did say that not everything is wave-based. There are a lot of wave-based rounds, but they also have location and event-based encounters. So an example they gave was kill zombies in a constantly moving radius to unlock the next area. So it's not going to be all about just surviving till the next round and trying to complete that Easter egg. You're going to have to complete little like mini games and little mini challenges to be able to advance as well, which I think is kind of cool. So there you guys have it. Just want to give you guys an update on everything. Zombies sounds pretty interesting, but the most important thing I want to talk about is opening up supply drops as a community. What do you guys think about that? I actually think it's kind of cool. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace out.